expert. Good to have you here with us, Priya. The gap has been at this level since 2019. Walk us through some of the findings from this report.
Yeah, so you mentioned it. Nice to meet you, Brad, by the way, that, the gender pay gap is widening and women are continuing to make less than men, and it's the worst it's been since 2019. And what we're finding is it's particularly pronounced at the occupational level. So especially within sales and professional roles, we're seeing men make 30% more than women for those same roles. So the underrepresentation of women in these higher paying roles, coupled with the systemic pay inequities and disparities, they continue to fuel inequality in earnings across various industries. But what we're also finding is that other factors impact how workers experience this gender pay gap. The first of which is age. So the labor force participation rate between men and women widens with age, particularly during parenthood. This was especially apparent during the pandemic when we saw millions of women exit the workforce due to the lack of available childcare. Race also plays a role. So the gender wage gap persists across all racial groups, with Asian men earning 23% more than Asian women, followed by gaps of 16% for Hispanic workers, 15% for white workers, and 14% for Black workers. And then there's the matter of education. The gap widens with education level as well. By late 2024, men with advanced degrees earn 25% more than similarly educated women. So we're really seeing this across the board, and it's exacerbated by things like age, race, and education.
So what role do employers play in closing this gender pay gap, especially knowing many of them, not many, but there have been some very noteworthy rollbacks that we've seen in diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, and part of that was an effort to also close the equity gap.
Absolutely, Brad. That's a great question. And employers really do have a responsibility to do their part to help close this gap and create these equitable workplaces where everyone can thrive. And so the three key barriers that employers can address are as follows. Number one is pay transparency. As of February 2025, 60% of job postings on Indeed contain salary information, which is great because that is up from just 18% in 2020. So pay transparency really helps women become better equipped to ask for what they deserve, negotiate fair wages, and it really does keep employers accountable. So that is a huge one. The second one will be no surprise to you, and it was mentioned earlier in your segments, but remote and flexible work. Across all age groups, women consistently cite the ability to work remotely as a critical factor when they're considering job opportunities. In fact, Indeed data shows that 57% of women ages 35 to 44 have applied for a job specifically because it was fully remote. And of that group, 48% had children under the age of 18. So again, remote and flexible work is key for this audience. It's important to note as it relates to flexible work that the demand is increasing, but unfortunately, the supply is decreasing. So remote positions have decreased since 2022, and they only account for 8.3% of all advertised positions on Indeed. So this decline is really indicating a shift towards in-office work again. And then the last key barrier that employers really need to address is family leave benefits. So mentions of employer family-related benefits are increasing on Indeed, which is great, but they are still rare, with only 7% of our job postings mentioning paid family leave. And as we all know, without adequate paid family leave, many women are forced to take career breaks that impact their long-term earnings and may even prevent them from re-entering the workforce in the future.
And so just lastly, while we have you here, because I want to give women some actionable tips out there and help everybody empty the quiver of all the arrows that they can throw at new opportunities in their negotiation. What are the top tips for advocating for equal pay in those negotiations?
Yes, Brad. First of all, know your worth. I think this was mentioned in your earlier segments as well. Research. Research on industry standards for your role. Know what you're paid for that role in that region, and come to the table armed with that kind of data. It's going to allow you to present a strong case when you're negotiating for a pay raise or a promotion. And then the second is network and community. You need to build a solid professional network, both inside and outside your organization. These are the connections that are going to offer mentorship, help you work through challenges, help bring new opportunities to the table. And so really consider networking inside and outside your organization. And a big part of that can be joining inclusion resource groups or employee resource groups within your company. I am the co-chair of our Parents and Caregivers Inclusion Business Resource Group, and I can tell you firsthand that we work towards advocating for specific policy for parents and for women across the organization. Also, document your achievements. My sister told me many years ago, and I do it to this day, create an A-list folder in your email, on your Google Drive. Document all those accomplishments. Use them in your performance reviews. Use them when you're asking for a promotion. Show where you've made a great impact across the organization. And finally, it sounds simple, but ask. You are never going to know the answer if you don't ask. Ask for that raise. Ask for that flexible work arrangement.
So yeah, so even though a lot of women, they're try to make more money or try to be businesses and everything, but when it comes to like regular day woman, average woman, it seems like they don't get. There's still a little bit of a gap of how women get paid and how men get paid to do it like a career or general jobs out there in the United States. So go ahead, Ronnie. What's your take on this on the gender gap?
You're mute.
You gotta understand something. One of the key factors that expert was saying that it was flexible. Men are more flexible than women. We don't mind. We don't mind working the night shift. We don't mind working the day shift. We don't mind working crazy shifts because we know we got to go out there and grind. Compared to women, because women, remember, they are the caregiver when it comes to aspect of children. They got to know like at a certain time I got to be home, make sure dinner is ready, make sure the kids are ready for school and other things. So that's why another reason why it really impacts the women when it comes to the work field. And not only that, but women not gonna do certain labor jobs. It's just a fact.
Thank you.
You know, it's tough. It's tough to say that, even though you see more women doing construction now, but still, it's like those type of jobs is not built for women. So it makes it very difficult for them to compete when it comes to the aspect of the man workforce. But don't get me wrong, I still see women doing executive work, getting promoted, or even when it comes to office job, they're getting good reviews, all these good raises, all these other things. But those are more, you see, sit down jobs. Those not like out there on the field sweating and women not gonna do that. No. So it's always gonna be a wage gap, and it's gonna continue to be a wage gap. Now a lot of people may disagree with that, but it's gonna always be. Go ahead, Iking.
Jordan, you were spot on with this topic. I think this is the first ever in this space that you ever hear this of this type of topic. And Ron, you took the words out of my mouth. And I want ladies to understand, when you make a decision to have kids, this is the sacrifice you make. And there were certain things that they said that I think a lot of people didn't pick up on. If you looked at the screen, I just want to pull that back up, and I want us fellas to look at this. They said, here's where the gender pay gap by occupation: 7% in farming, fishing, and forestry. What women out there working on the fishing boat? What women out there doing the Alaskan crab fishing? Y'all been out there on the Alaskan crab fishing. You not out there. You know how many people are getting swallowed by the sea? It's only men. Then you said office and administration work, 15%. Then transportation and material moving. For the love of Christ, y'all just started to become truck drivers. Y'all not in the back hauling stuff in sales. So I love that they say this, but one thing she said that, and which really blew my mind, was the remote thing. I worked remote before, and it's mainly women. Not a lot of guys work remote. And a lot of women who have kids want to be able to stay home. And most big businesses want you to come into the offices. So my key thing is this: you want the top remote jobs, you got to become in tech. You got to become a programmer. You got to get your A+ certification. You got to become a computer technician, because most of the remote balls are customer service. Those are getting shipped off to the Philippines.
Mm. So when I thought about this topic, and and then like I said, it's this topic to talk about, but it does come down to when it comes to work about how more of the sacrifices, meaning Ronnie said this earlier, if we work day, night, overnight, whatever, and really continue to do that. Because if you look at like a lot of these overnight jobs, you mostly see men. If you go see a Target, if you go to a Walmart, Whole Foods, any overnight grocery, general, whatever, it's mostly you'll see men there. I worked with some women overnight. I have, but usually they don't last. They do not last. I know, Ronnie, you got work with somebody overnight. They work, but they don't last.
No.
They don't last. I mean, I probably worked with somebody I worked with probably for the year, and after that, he was gone.
Yep,
So,
facts.
going based on that, when men work overnight, it's like they're built for it. It's hot, and the thing is like it's not when you get done. It's also when you get home, what time you go to sleep or how you sleep. Because sometimes you work overnight, you might get 3 to 4 hours of sleep during the week. Sometimes,
better talk about it.
On the weekend, you can get your 8 hours, but most of the time, when you're working overnight, you're gonna get between 3 to 5 hours of sleep. And especially where you live at, if you live up more of the north and everything, with with the sun, it's still don't go sunsets like 9 o'clock, something like that. If you live like up in Michigan or Seattle, something like that, it's tough. And for a woman's body, it could be extremely hard for the woman to go to do something like that than it is for us. Because I think us, man, we were built for like the overnight.
Yep.
Yeah, we're built for it. I was gonna say.
Hold on, he froze on. There you go.
If that's I'm just saying it like that because but I don't want to generalize that, but also dangerous jobs. Men are still doing the dangerous jobs and everything. I would never see in my lifetime that we'll see a shift of women will do more dangerous jobs than men would and everything like that. So even though there's women outnumbered us in the United States and everything, still majority of jobs that's when it comes to construction, labor, all that, it still goes to men. It always goes to men. I think most women will say this, will think that long term of this is how jobs for men do. This is the jobs for men, not for women, but men. Can I do the job? Sure, but if it's something that has to do with labor, hard labor, it's more of the men's jobs to do. So it's going to be a gender gap when it comes to this all the time. And it will probably forever be a conversation. Well, women want to gain more, this and that. Okay, cool. If you work these dangerous jobs and see how long you last. Simple as that.
Yep. Like, share, and subscribe.